6:42. We have a rather extraordinary story now, don't we?
It's amazing, isn't it?
And if you have parents who have been in hospital, this will concern you. Imagine being so concerned about the care your loved one was receiving in hospital that you actually decided to hide in a toilet to spy on the staff. Well, that was the extreme measure that MP Dawn Butler went to when her father Milo was being treated for a suspected stroke in Queen's Hospital in Romford in 2010.
Yes, Dawn was really worried about unclean conditions, missed medication, so she took matters into her own hands to see what went on when she wasn't there, and she joins us now. It seems quite extreme, doesn't it? Particularly someone in your position as an MP, you'd think would have the authority and the position to go and check on what was going on. What finally drove you to go and hide in a toilet to find out what was happening?
Good morning. I suppose I come as a daughter, as more than anything else. So I was so concerned about what was happening. I saw various things happening. I saw patients being given the wrong medication because the beds were poorly labelled, so they didn't know which patient to go to. And at lunchtime, they used to throw all the relatives out of the room, and we think, well, why are you throwing us all out of the ward at this time when we can feed our loved ones? And so I had to find out what was happening and why it was happening. So, yeah, I hid in the toilet.
And the hygiene was something that really bothered you, wasn't it?
Yeah, when my father was first admitted to the hospital, he came in via blue light, so by the ambulance he came in. He was admitted to a room just by himself, and it smelt of urine. There was a blood-stained plaster on the floor. And can you imagine leaving your loved one who've come in via ambulance into that condition? So, you know, we basically had to get some stuff and clean the toilet. We complained and said, you know, and we appreciate that the hospital's busy, but to have somebody be admitted in an emergency situation in a dirty room, just the concerns. And my father caught an infection.
Oh, and you must have been worried enough about your dad, let alone feeling he wasn't getting the best possible care. It really adds to all the worry, doesn't it? Yeah. So what did you see, what did you uncover when you were hiding in that toilet and you did your sort of snooping, if you like?
Well, it was the strangest thing. So the good thing I saw was that there was a cleaner, and I was quite reluctant in a way to mention her because I didn't want to get her into trouble, but she finished her rounds and came back and started feeding patients. Aww. And I couldn't believe that, and I thought, wow, that's amazing.
Well, she could obviously see what you were seeing.
She could see what I was seeing, and she probably saw that every day and felt that she couldn't speak up. And I kind of think we need some protection for people who whistle blow as well, because, you know, I suppose she could get into trouble for doing that.
Yeah.
But I also saw patients' food being left at the end of their beds and then being collected without them even touching their meals.
Why? Because they were too ill to feed themselves?
Some were sleeping. So it was such a concern. But it was different on different wards. So not all the wards were the same. This particular ward, it was really bad. I mean, my father's eye medication, for instance, was supposed to be administered every hour. It wasn't. And when I went and complained that it wasn't done, they then filled in the form as though it was done. And it was so dramatic that you do become quite paranoid and you don't want to leave. I didn't want to leave my dad for a second, nor did the rest of my family. So we had a rota system where we were there all the time. We had our own handovers, you know, anybody that, and I've received lots of letters and tweets of people who are going through exactly the same situation with their family.
Well, let's get just a brief word from our correspondent Helen Pearson, who's actually at the Queen's Hospital for us. What did the hospital have to say?
Well, we should note that this case happened back in 2010, and since then 16 claims of alleged inadequate care have been made between 2007 and 2013, and all but one have been settled. But the Trust says that it's totally unacceptable that Mr Butler or any other patients suffered harm or poor treatment whilst in their care, and a number of changes have been brought in, including more investment in nursing and better monitoring of patients. They say that they have made enormous progress and huge strides over the past 18 months, which have been recognised by the Care Quality Commission, but they do say and they do admit that there is still a very long way to go.
Thank you, Helen. So do you feel comforted by the changes you made? And I also wondered, with you with your political hat on, whether it's made you change your position, you feel more informed about what should be done generally.
Yeah, I think, yes. I think I see what goes wrong. I see what happens if you have too much reorganisation of a hospital. You know, they're more concerned with covering their backs and, you know, doing the budgets and the fund than the patient
Following
care.
the systems rather than anything else.
And the patient care is really paramount and important. So yeah, I can see what can go wrong quite easily, and I'm very mindful of that. So am I comforted? I just don't want any other family to go through what we went through, and it took well over a year and a half before I decided to go down the legal route, and that's because I read in the papers again when Lay Day solicitors were taking another case because somebody else had died, and I thought I need to speak up, and I'm, if you like, in a position now where I can speak up. I'm a politician, I can speak up, and I thought, well, I need to speak up. But it really is quite emotional, and it kind of brings it all back every time you speak about it.
Yeah, and you're tearing up there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's totally understandable. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Okay, it's 12 minutes to
12
7.
minutes, coming up to 7 o'clock. We're going to get a competition for you now. Here's Margarita Taylor.
Now, do you ever wish there was more money in your bank account so you could go spend, spend, spend? Well, enter our £62,000 competition, and that's exactly what you could be doing.
It's a huge amount of money that could make a real difference to you and your family.
£62,000? That's the equivalent of £2,000 a day, every day in August. What would you do with all that cash?
Maybe this will be a step up onto the property ladder that you've been saving for. Or is it time to take care of that DIY?